80% of the landmass is actually ice. And out here, you feel very, very small. This is Greenland's ice cap. It is one of the most brutal environments on Earth. Nothing survives up here, not even the polar bears. In winter, this is a deep, dark freeze where the sun never rises. And in summer, it never sets. It's pure daylight for months. But somehow, right on the edge of this unforgiving ice, there's a small town of people who survive these extremes. They're the polar Eskimos of Qaanaaq. Are you amazed at how these people survive out here?
I am, and I have great respect for that. As you've seen for yourself, the Arctic wilderness is something extraordinary.
There's some really impressive lumps of ice breaking off from that.
They're monuments, aren't they? They're monuments of ice.
They're monuments of ice. They're like cathedrals of ice. I've seen some the size of small English villages. They're extraordinary.
All these ice.
It's a long way from home for Cambridge professor Stephen Leonard. He's lived here for the past 12 months, experiencing the Arctic in all its beauty and brutality, while researching the unique Inuit way of life.
I was living a sort of childhood ambition, I suppose, in a way, and I was never happier than out on the sea ice, on skis or with local hunters. And you just deal with the frustrations on a day-to-day basis. You have to be exceedingly patient. A year in an Inuit community has shown me what it is like to be thwarted, to be confronted with contingency and circumstance day after day. But you just have to keep going.
To understand the Inuit, Stevens had to live like them. He's been snap frozen in month-long snowstorms. Encountered very hungry polar bears in the main street of town. And he suffered through the long, dark months of an Arctic winter.
3.5 months of darkness will play with your mind if you're not used to it, and I certainly wasn't used to it. The sun goes down for the last time on the 24th of October, doesn't rise to the 17th of February. That's a very long, dark period.
During that deep, dark winter here, did you ever think, what am I doing?
It never once occurred to me to pack up and go home, but there were some low moments. I think I probably suffered from depression in the dark period, which was something new for me.
But this is not just some personal test of resilience. Stephen came to the township of Qaanaaq to record a disappearing Eskimo culture. Songs, stories, even language being lost to time.
You know, a language is so much more than a list of words. You know, if we lose a language, we lose these voices.
Is that disappearing though?
It's disappearing, and I think it's inevitable that one day it will disappear completely.
It's a culture that dates back to 900 AD, when Inuit ancestors crossed ice and land bridges from Canada into northwest Greenland. Not even the Vikings dared forge a life this far north. And just as they've done for millennia, the Inuit hunt the incredible-looking narwhal. But these days, hunters must abide by a quota of around 60 each year and use a traditional kayak and harpoon. For seal hunting, there's a modern allowance. Rifles are permitted. Gee, it's a tough thing to see, I've got to admit. It's hard,
It is,
isn't it?
yeah. It's not our culture, I mean, but it is important to remember that this is subsistence hunting. These people, the Inuhui, are hunting because that is their life and that is what they eat.
Yeah.
Not surprisingly, seal is on the menu for Sunday lunch at the home of Eskimo elder Ayuku and his wife Anna.
I'm not entirely sure, but we'll give it a go, huh? Rightio.
Mamak to ko. Pinyaluk ka do.
An acquired taste.
If it moves, and it's at all edible, it will find its way to the table, including the local specialty of fermented bird, complete with feathers.
Okay, that's the whole bird.
This is the whole bird.
All right, so when in Rome, I'm not even sure I can pick that up. All right. It's cold.
It's cold, yeah.
Right, okay.
You're expecting it to be hot.
I'm really not too sure what to expect right now, to be honest with you.
Just pull off the feathers. Comes off very easily.
Like that?
Like that.
Nothing is wasted, not even the head and beak.
Right.
Yeah.
And I must admit, I'm struggling to maintain my table manners.
I can't. It's got a head on it. It's still staring at me, for goodness sake. Ugh.
It's good.
This is a way of life that demands a strong stomach and an iron will. And there are new pressures, as climate change dramatically alters the landscape they've known for centuries. The locals regard climatic shifts as the natural cycle, but it's not so long ago that this entire bay was part of a massive glacier.
Most of it has disappeared now. So
This bay wasn't here.
No, it wasn't here. No. So I'm quite surprised how much it has moved, you know. We're having a bit difficulty to find an explanation of it, so I don't... But
All you know is that something's changing.
yes, something's changing, definitely, yeah.
For the Inuit, ice is life. The sea ice and frozen fjords provide vital bridges to rich hunting grounds. Stephen even drove across it to visit remote villages. Gaps in the ice are crucial for catching walrus and seal. Now, as the ice disappears, the all-important hunting season is cut short.
20 years ago, the polar Eskimos knew exactly when the sea ice would come. It would come in September, it would leave in July. Now, nobody knows. There's a very large element of unpredictability about it all, and that makes hunting increasingly difficult because you don't know where the animals are.
This is the very northern edge of civilization, and the most remote villages are most vulnerable to the changes taking place. Getting to them isn't easy. But at least the summer sun means we've got lots of daylight to work with. The hardest thing to adjust to here is that blazing sun. It just doesn't go down, and it's like this for about 3 months of the year. It's now 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's broad daylight. Finally, after a hard day's night, we arrive at one of Greenland's most remote communities.
Rightio. Here we are.
And find physical evidence of the Eskimos' disappearing culture. Fishing villages once thriving with life, abandoned and crumbling.
It is very much a ghost town.
It certainly is a ghost town.
It's sad in a sense to see this abandoned and all of these houses just going to ruin.
I think it's sad, yes, because it's not just houses, it's people's lives, and it's also the traditional cultural life of the Polo Eskimos.
And as this unique way of life goes, so goes the Inuit language.
It's a tiny language, it has 770 speakers, so it is vulnerable.
With his expertise in linguistics, Stephen's determined to document this language on the brink. And he's been discovering that it's often what's not said that can be as important as what is.
It took me a while to understand that the raised eyebrows means yes, the pinched nose means no, which I can't do properly, and the shrugged shoulders means maybe, and the answer to most questions is maybe.
Stephen has made hundreds of hours of recordings. His aim is to publish the first complete Inuit dictionary.
Why should we care if this language is documented or preserved?
Ultimately, it depends what kind of world you want to live in. Personally, I think the world would be utterly dull if we all spoke the same language, and diversity is something to be treasured.
A fragile culture to be treasured and hopefully preserved. Long after Stephen has left this icy land for more comfortable climes. When you get back home to England, what's the first thing you're going to do?
I think I'm going to go to a pub and get myself a pint of English beer.
Warm and flat.
Warm and flat, that would do me fine.